Welcome to Preview Eye on the Arts at Primal Modern Studio, the studio home of Michael Olshefski. Wait till you see this. It's going to be just a beautiful show for you.
I grew up actually in upstate New York, but then moved to Boston for my architecture school back in the early 80s. Then I moved out here to California to finish my professional degree in architecture at SciArc, which I've been a practicing architect for 20 plus years. This piece is called Gravity, and the idea came out of it's got a leather platform that the piece balances on, and what I wanted to do is create a piece that could stand in many different positions. So there's one position. If you prefer to look at it like this at times, there's another position. Or it can be mounted like this as another position. So the idea was to find the center of gravity in all these different angles so that the piece could be presented and mounted in such a way. My work is, though they would call it wabi-sabi, it's a Japanese term for the beauty of the imperfect, the incomplete, and the often overseen things in nature. So though my pieces are technically wabi-sabi, which would be defined as Japanese, it's really an overall ancient Eastern philosophy that it's rooted in. I'm a scuba diving instructor, so that's also where a lot of my inspirations come from. This piece is actually called Ocean because it reminds me of a giant sea fan when I'm diving in the sea. So when you're diving, the only rhythm you have is the rhythm of your breathing. You're witnessing and observing. It's almost a meditation. I often say to people, even if I'm very, very stressed, as soon as my head goes underwater, it's almost like a religious experience. To me, it's all those life forms in the sea, I feel are giving me energy. My studio partner I've been looking at is possibly, he's got a figure that he wants to do with a woman that kind of comes across here, and then mount this as a vertical piece. And what we're talking about is it would be mounted vertically, similar to the upstairs, and on the one side would be the front of the person, and on the back would be a bronze piece of the back of the person. So it's kind of transferring through the piece. This one's kind of a cool piece because it's an old apple tree, and so I'm going to make it into like a breakfast nook table, so with a little space in the middle. When I select pieces, I have a few different mills that I work with around the country, and they specialize in just salvaged, reclaimed pieces. So for my work, it's the essence of the work is the piece really does need to have lived out its full life, because the wabi-sabi comes out of time. I find pieces that just move me. I don't know necessarily what they'll be. By having them there, they give me the inspiration to figure out what they'll be, but by also having them, it's been very helpful to my customers when they come to say, well, what is this wood? What kind of wood is that? What is this? You know, sometimes people aren't sure what they want. Do they want a lighter color, a darker color? I'm looking at, it's got a sister piece to it there.
Oh, look at this.
So by putting these together would make quite a dramatic
countertop for sure.
Element.
This one has all the elements. I love these little rocks.
The aesthetics of it came out of, again, sort of a bonsai effect of a sort of landscape against a water. But from a practical standpoint, as a cocktail table, if you have something hot, you can place it into the stones. It acts as a trivet. Or if you have a cold bottle of wine or champagne, you'd stack it in the rocks, and the rocks will absorb the moisture from that. It's both an aesthetic element, but it's also a very functional one.
Is this really dark in here?
That's all natural. I put no color on anything. Because for me, the idea is, again, keep that three-dimensionality. Cracks to me are a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
They're not a bad thing. But what this is actually a bark void. So this is where one branch of the tree came up one way and another branch of the tree came up another.
Yeah.
And as it grew, it filled in this gap. So when I get these pieces, this is all packed with bark. Part of the fun to me is I almost feel like an archaeologist digging out stuff, because you're pulling this out and nobody's seen that surface for 100 years. Once you pull the bark out, that's the actual original surface of the tree. It's how nature affects everything. How, you walk into an old library and you're walking up the steps, and the marble steps are kind of worn down from thousands of people walking up those steps. Or the handrails that you go down and you notice how they've been worn by the weight of the hand. Or rocks in a river where the water has been hitting it for hundreds of years and has now carved that rock. That's the real wabi-sabi. I didn't know what to expect when I started working on this one until I started sanding it and finishing it, and then more and more and more of it came out. I've been doing this stuff for many, many years, and yet I still get surprised. The rocks are both symbolic as well as functional. So it's sort of a bonsai river garden going through the table. It really is just an emotional feeling when I see the wood. I have no idea what it's going to be. I'll look through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pieces, and also like, wow, I got to have that piece. I have no idea why, but it's just the aesthetic of it just moves me. I don't know if it's going to be a table, a sculpture, or what. And I buy the pieces, and then I live with them for a while. Frank Lloyd Wright used to always say, let a project live in your mind first, because as soon as you put a line on paper, you've committed yourself to a boundary. People often say there's something about it that I can't really explain, but it's different than what I see over here. I'm not really a woodworker. I'm an architect and I'm a designer first. I just happen to work in wood.